Hey, speaking of pigskin, Donald Trump, in his ongoing effort to distract us from the fact that he doesn't want Melania to see the Epstein files, went after Rosie O'Donnell again. He's been threatening to revoke Rosie O'Donnell's American citizenship, which, like peeing standing up, he cannot do.
I love that because Trump is always
a president that actually, had the worst tribulations our country has ever faced and brought us together. Now, the opposite is happening right now. We have a president who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb, destroying every institution that's precious to us.
The spectacle of Donald Trump's presidency almost seems designed for comedy. When Jimmy Kimmel and Jim Carrey take aim, it feels less like a roast and more like a chaotic demolition derby fueled by ego, blunders, and sheer absurdity. Picture a man convinced he's crafting history, yet delivering something that plays more like a reel of bloopers accidentally stitched together. The nation didn't get a true commander, it got a parody performer unaware he was auditioning for a part no one ever wanted him to play.
He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show. That backfired bigly. He might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now.
In modern times, he criticized capitalism without a conscience. And that's what we have now. We have capitalism without a conscience. He showed the common man being fed through gears of the brutal, dehumanizing industrial age. He took on the American right wing of his day, its worst evils: hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon. Kimmel wastes no time tearing apart the image Trump tries so hard to project, exposing it like a magician unmasking every cheap trick. He portrays him as a man convinced that shouting louder somehow makes him wiser, as if volume alone were a credential of intelligence. The Oval Office, once a symbol of honor and dignity, has been reduced to a late-night comedy stage where the headliner bombs night after night, yet still insists on an encore. Kimmel highlights this downfall by making Trump's endless self-promotion the very punchline. After all, when the leader of the free world treats governing like a talent show, the joke practically writes itself.
And before I share this, I'd like to remind you, this is a post from the President of the United States. He wrote, "As previously mentioned, we are giving serious thought to taking away Rosie's citizenship. She is not a great American and is, in my opinion, incapable of being so." Here's the thing, whenever he's spitting out, he goes back to Rosie. That's his safe space. He zeroes out.
Carrey unleashes his trademark surreal chaos, inflating Trump into a cartoon so grotesque it feels disturbingly accurate. He portrays the president as a living caricature of excess, the kind of character a comedy writer would cut from a first draft because no one would believe such absurdity could actually exist. And yet, there he is, steering the nation like a man convinced his golf cart could win the Indy 500. Carrey's brilliance lies in magnifying Trump's flaws until they resemble a warped funhouse mirror, one that, against all odds, still manages to reflect reality.
He's a car salesman. He's a used car salesman.
Absolutely.
And he's, he didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer.
No?
So who knows what the hell is wrong with us?
But as I watched,
unfortunately, we're in the back seat, right?
Right.
We're not in
As I watched this week, what I kept thinking was, it all comes down to this case of narcissistic personality disorder. We've all talked about it since we've been on the public scene.
Kimmel takes the roast even further by ridiculing Trump's fixation on spectacle. Rather than solving crises, he stages them. Instead of tackling problems, he spins them into plot twists. Under his watch, the United States looked less like a democracy and more like a never-ending reality show, complete with cliffhangers and plot holes so wide they could swallow entire budgets. Kimmel exposes the absurdity of a leadership style where airtime outweighs answers, leaving the audience caught between laughter and secondhand embarrassment.
Calling her fat is what makes him comfortable. Meanwhile, she's about half his weight now. In fact, this photo he posted. She posted the photo. This photo he posted looks really more like him than her. It's Rosie O'Donnell. How can someone so old be so childish? It's Benjamin can't button his pants.
Carrey twists that image into pure performance art, casting Trump as a circus ringmaster who can't control the animals, yet still demands applause for the chaos. The elephants are stampeding, the lions are devouring the clowns, and he waves his arms as if this disaster was part of the act all along. Carrey delivers the irony with manic flair, a presidency so unstable it feels like an improv routine gone horribly wrong. And yet, everyone else remains stuck inside the skit with no way to step off the stage.
But we see it in real time. Somebody really unraveling, spiraling toward madness.
So I'm an asshole? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. We're talking
Oh, you're not talking. You're talking.
There was a tape of him talking to Bob Woodward, right? We heard that this week. At the end of it, he gets a little frustrated and he says, well, accurate is that nobody's ever done a better job than I'm doing as president. He says, how can you...
Job of what? Job of what? Demolition Man?
Right.
Kimmel skewers Trump's relationship with truth, mocking how reality warps around him. Facts aren't guardrails, they're obstacles. He paints Trump as a kid who scribbles over his report card, claims straight A's, and scolds anyone who notices the smudges. Under Trump, accountability becomes parody. Mistakes don't vanish because they're fixed, but because he declares them victories. The laugh comes not just from his audacity, but from how many nod along as if the smudges aren't glaring. Carrey pushes it further, imagining Trump's presidency as a surreal museum, a gold-plated hall of excuses, wings of unfinished projects guarded by cardboard cutouts, and mirrors that always reflect genius, no matter how warped. Kimmel likens him to a child stomping in a sandbox, convinced he's building an empire while ruining everyone else's day. The comedy lands because the image is too real, a leader so desperate to look powerful that he reveals his fragility with every move.
They kicked the can in the hopes that, I don't know, we'd be hit by a tidal wave or something, it would wash away, but it didn't wash away. So they tried another dumb idea. Again, this time the House Oversight Committee released some of the Epstein files, around 33,000 pages of the Epstein files, the vast majority of which had already been released. You would think that of all the cases, the one for Jeffrey Epstein would get a full release, but no.
Carrey unleashes his trademark wildness, casting Trump as a performance gone off the rails. It's like a comic bombing so badly he insults the audience, then demands a standing ovation. That's Trump in a nutshell. Failures spun as triumphs, chaos sold as strategy, and silence branded betrayal. Carrey thrives in this surreal exaggeration, exposing the absurd machinery keeping the act alive. Kimmel, meanwhile, targets Trump's crisis management, treating disasters as PR stunts instead of emergencies. The pandemic, for instance, became less about saving lives and more about salvaging his image, with daily briefings staged like press tours. Kimmel cuts into the absurdity, mocking a style of leadership built on dodging blame instead of finding solutions. Together, their satire makes clear how dangerous incompetence becomes when wrapped in ego and denial.
We are fighting those same evils today. In America, in the United Kingdom, across the globe. And we need to be clear, shamelessness is not and will never be a superpower. It is the mark of a villain. Kidnapping children is not what great nations do. All Almost half of America at this moment believes there is a sinister deep state diabolically plotting to what? Give them health care?
Kimmel zeroes in on Trump's obsession with crowd sizes, ratings, and applause, mocking how he treats politics like a popularity contest. He imagines him in the Oval Office as a desperate game show contestant, glued to the scoreboard, convinced approval numbers are trophies. The leader of the free world reduced to refreshing his own mentions, desperate to be liked. The ridicule lands because it shows how small the obsession really is. Carrey spins that desperation into slapstick. Trump is a performer, bowing after every line, waiting for cheers that never come. In his version, the Oval Office comes with a laugh track just to fill the silence. Carrey's surrealism turns insecurity into comedy gold, transforming the hunger for validation into an endless pratfall. Together, their assault dismantles not just the man, but the myth, leaving only the wreckage of an ego-driven performance.
Now, there was some new information in the documents. Contrary to what Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi said, there was video of that missing minute of security footage shot outside Epstein's cell. That footage somehow this footage got re-edited more times than the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. And it's a big problem for Trump because the push to release the names isn't just coming from the left. This is a bipartisan effort. It's coming from inside the House.
Kimmel drives home how Trump reshaped politics into a cult of personality, bending laws and traditions to fit his theatrics. He mocks the absurdity of a president acting like a reality show contestant, convinced the rules don't apply. The laughter cuts deep because it exposes the tragedy, a system meant to safeguard democracy reduced to stage props in his endless performance. Carrey pushes it further, picturing Trump as a cartoon villain who stumbled into office and stayed because the chairs were comfortable. Instead of a transformative figure, he becomes a cautionary tale, a blooper reel of governance future generations will mock in disbelief. Kimmel seals it with biting humor, ensuring the ridicule clings like glue.
Paying Trump as an artist. This isn't exactly a Norman Rockwell. No one is hanging this in a museum. Their other proof he didn't do it is the signature. They say it doesn't look like his signature. It sure does to me. Especially when you compare it to other Trump signatures from that era, they're almost exactly the same. They all end with a long D, which I can only assume is Trump overcompensating for a small D.
Carrey closes with surreal brilliance, envisioning a future where museums devote entire wings to Trump's absurdities. Animatronic tantrums, Twitter archives displayed like sacred scrolls, and wax figures that collapse if you stare too long. It's grotesque, hilarious, and painfully accurate. His takedown doesn't just mock, it immortalizes the absurdity. Carrey's vision of these twisted halls reminds us that Trump branded chaos as culture, each exhibit a warning of power without principle. He doesn't just lampoon Trump as president, he strips away every illusion of gravitas, exposing a man so desperate for recognition he'd rather be infamous than forgotten. Kimmel's roast seals it, turning the Oval Office into a stage where the act drags on long after the curtain should have fallen.
Here's the other thing. This book is 22 years old. Who would have been faking Donald Trump's signature in a private birthday book in January of 2003? The Apprentice wasn't even on the air yet. This would require an extraordinary amount of planning. Caroline Leavitt, his press secretary, the woman who keeps insisting Trump didn't draw this or sign this in 2003, she was 5 years old. She was too young even for Jeffrey Epstein in 2003.
Together, one wielding satire and the other surrealism, they strip away every shred of Trump's mythology. Kimmel's gallery of absurdities reframes his presidency not as governance, but as a performance no one asked for. Carrey makes the laughter sting deeper by exposing how foolish it looks when shouting is mistaken for strength and publicity for leadership. Their demolition leaves no escape. They don't just poke holes in Trump's legacy, they unravel it thread by thread until nothing remains. The man who sought to appear towering now looks microscopic, consumed by his insecurities and theatrics. Carrey's surreal touch immortalizes the absurdity, turning what was sold as greatness into a blooper reel looping endlessly in the public memory.
Poland had the misfortune to visit in the middle of Hurricane Epstein. As you probably know, Republicans forced an early recess over the summer to avoid having to vote on whether to release the Epstein files, which many of them do not want to do because it would upset Orange Julius Caesar bigly. So
Trump's myth crumbles under satire because satire doesn't exaggerate, it mirrors. Kimmel's jokes and Carrey's surreal visions reflect exactly what he built: a caricature of power, a parody of governance, a mockery of responsibility. Their roast ensures his legacy won't fade quietly, but will be preserved as an absurdity too big to ignore. Together, they deliver a demolition so complete that nothing survives. The myth of strength, the illusion of competence, the aura of greatness, all torn apart by ridicule sharp enough to sting and wit bold enough to endure. His presidency plays less like a chapter of history and more like a comedy skit stretched on for years. The real tragedy isn't that he tried, it's that the nation had to endure the show. And when the curtain finally falls, the applause will belong to the comedians who made the pain bearable by turning it into laughter.